Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be, wherever you may be. Welcome to the VBC Bible Institute and welcome to Journey Through the Bible. Yes, we've been in this course for a little bit of time. A lot of information has been provided to you. And I cannot stress this, the whole goal here is to journey through the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation. But I want to make sure you understand this. This is not going to be done like any other journey that you have ever done. If you've taken Old Testament survey, if you've taken a college course or a Bible Institute course on the book of Genesis, any other study you've ever done with a Bible survey, a study of a book, I don't care how you engaged in that study. I don't care if you were in person, if you listened to it online, if it was at church. This is going to be radically different than anything you've ever done. I can almost guarantee there'll be similarities. Let me make it very clear. There's going to be similarities, but we're going to try to approach this in a way that is not the typical way, and I hope there is benefit from it. So here we are, Journey Through the Bible. We've been doing all the preparing, all the preliminary work. We've been using supplemental material to supplement your study to try to get you prepared for this day. This is it. I mean, we look, we've left the staging facility. We've got all of our gear. We've got everything. And here we are. We're literally looking at we're going to enter into the land of the Old Testament. Okay, remember we did an overview of the whole land. We're going to enter into that land. And remember, as we get into this land, we're going to see these individual areas, we can call them territories, however you want to describe it, books. And the first book that is the first part of the land, the first territory, is the book of Genesis. It's right in front of us, and we're about to enter into it. And I hope that you're ready. And I'm going to stress this over and over and over and over again. All right. The quality of your journey, the quality of your study is greatly dependent on the quantity of your reading. If you want to really get something from this, then read. Start reading Genesis. Start reading it every single day. Read Genesis. Read it, live it, breathe it, talk about it, inhale it, okay? I want it to possess you. I want it to be inside of you. I want it to fill your mind. I want it to fill your thoughts. I want you to dream about it, okay? If you really care to know it, then that's why I keep using this idea of a journey. We're going to walk into it, and I want you to really be in it, to experience it so that you take something from it. And what we want to do is find truth. We want to handle the text correctly, all right? So I've spent hours, literally, I've literally have dreamed about how to do this. How do I want to do this? Because I could come here right now and go, okay, here's, in fact, I'll demonstrate how I could do this, all right? If you remember, I have my notes right here. If you remember, we outlined the book of Genesis, all right? Now, I was going to kind of do a little review here, but I'm going to review it this way because I want you to at least remember this. We broke the book of Genesis into two major sections, right? Two major sections, and this is very important, all right? We looked at two major sections, and we called them the first section, 4 major events, and the second section, 4 major people, or 4 important people. 4 major events, or you can call them 4 important events, 4 important people. I think 4 major events and 4 major people. Those are the two sections that we broke them into. The first section goes from chapter 1 to chapter 11. The second section goes from chapter 12 to chapter 50. 4 major events, 4 major people. Now, if you remember, those 4 major event, that first section, 4 major events, we broke it down obviously into 4 parts, right? Because there's 4 major events: creation, fall, flood, nations. Creation, fall, flood, nations. Creation, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Fall, chapter 3 through chapter 5. Flood, chapter 6 through chapter 9. Nations, chapter 10 through 11. All right. So first section, 4 major events. What are those events? Creation, fall, flood, and nation. Everybody got that? I mean, I think everybody can get that. What are the chapters? Creation, chapters 1 through 2. Fall, chapters 3 through 5. Flood, chapters 6 through 9. Nations, chapter 10 through 11. I literally, if you have to write this down. You need this outline written down, all right? I want you to be able to just do it from memory, all right? Just be able to write it down from memory. Genesis, the book of Genesis. How many sections? 2. What are the 2 sections? 4 major people. 4 major events, 4 major people, all right? What are the 4 major events? Creation, fall, flood, and nations. Or creation, fall, flood, and tower. I think that's what we, you can call it nations. We'll call it tower, I think is what we originally give it. And you can do that. You can call it tower. I think that works better. Creation, fall, flood, Tower of Babel, or just put tower. There's a reason nations is there. That's okay. I changed my outline the last time I gave it, and I didn't write it down on these notes. These are my old notes. I've done through Genesis so many different times, and I change it every time, which is what we should do. That's why I every time I study, I try to forget what I've learned in the past to relearn it again. So 2 major sections, 4 major events, 4 major people. The 4 major events are creation, fall, flood, and I will call it Tower of Babel. Creation, chapters 1 through 2, fall 3 through 5, flood 6 through 9, Tower of Babel, or you can put in parentheses nations 10 through 11. All right, just remember that. And then the 4 major people: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Abraham, chapter 12 through 25. Isaac, chapter 26 through 27. Jacob, chapter 26 through 30, or chapter 28 through 36. Joseph, chapter 37 through 50. All right, so let's say it again. Genesis, 2 major sections, 4 major events, 4 major people. The 4 major events are the creation, the fall, the flood, and the tower. The 4 major people are Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. The 4 major events, broken down even further by giving you scripture reference: the creation goes from chapters 1 through 2, the fall, chapters 3 through 5, the flood, chapter 6 through 9, the tower, parentheses, nations, 10 through 11, the 4 major people: Abraham, chapter 12 through 25, Isaac, chapter 26 through 27, Jacob, chapter 28 through 36, Joseph, chapter 37 through 50. There you have it. So that's our overview. So you can already break the book down. Now, another thing to remember is chapter 1 through 11 covers about somewhere over 2,000 years. Over 2,000 years. Over 2,000 years. So the 4 major events covers over 2,000 years. The 4 major people cover approximately 300 years. All right, and then remember one of the key phrases: generations. Generations. Remember that key, generations, and I broke it down and how that term generations is used throughout the book of Genesis, and how we could, in a sense, we could literally kind of create our own outline using the term generations, but that's okay. So now here's what we could do. I could take that and say, all right, today we're going to begin section number 1. Or we're going to begin section number 1, part 1. So section number 1 is 4 major events, and we're going to look at the event of creation. We're going to look at the event of creation, and then I could probably do 2, maybe 3 lessons on creation. I could possibly provide you an outline for chapter 1 and chapter 2, or just chapter 1. I could then say, here's the way you break the chapter down. Here's some certain, segments, and we could get through it in a relatively quick way. I could do that. And there is benefit from it. And we may come back and do an outline of a chapter. We may do that. Look, every chapter is going to be different. Every book is going to be different. This is going to be a unique approach to this. So I just want to make sure you've got that grasp on the 2 major sections, 4 major events, 4 major people. You know what those are. You can write that outline down from memory. Because that will always give you an idea of the book. And whenever we're journeying through the book, and if you feel lost, you can go, wait, where am I? Pull out your map. Okay, I'm still in the 4 major events section. Okay, All right, this covered this, over 3,000 years. Okay, I got this. Okay, all right, now we're transitioning into 4 major people. Who are these major people? That map gives you some sense of where you are. So it's important to have that. But we are going in and we're going to do our best to really, 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 really make this beneficial. All right. So I want you to at least have that overview. There's a lot of other things we could say in our review of the book, but I just want you to remember that. Okay. At least have that down. All right. I feel like I should just review the whole book again, but I want us to get started. All right. I really want us there. Okay. So are you ready? We're gonna do this in a very different way, and you're gonna see every session is going to be different, and hopefully you benefit from it. Now, I've got to give you a word of warning. We're probably going to spend more time in Genesis, especially chapter 1, chapter 2. Those first 11 chapters, those 4 major events. We're going to spend a lot of time there because really, I cannot stress this enough. If you don't understand everything you can as we enter into this land and we come into this first territory of Genesis, if we don't learn everything we can about Genesis, if we don't get some things clear in our minds, if we don't truly understand it, the rest of the journey, we're gonna be confused. We're not gonna reach the destination we want, which is to find truth. We're gonna just be confused. You've got to get Genesis right. You have to. You have to. It's the book of beginnings. It's where we begin the journey, and it's where we're going to pick up so much knowledge that is absolutely going to be key to the way the rest of the journey goes. If we get Genesis wrong, it's over. It's done. Just stop. Just return back to the staging facility. Throw away all of your equipment, get back on a bus, get back on an airplane, go back home, and just give up. I cannot stress that enough. You've got to get Genesis right. You have to. You have to. You've got to come out of it with some idea. So we're gonna enter into Genesis 1 and we're gonna look at this so many different ways, and I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready. All right. So there's your outline. There you've got your outline. You can see me hesitate. You can hear me, right? You can hear me hesitating. I'm hesitating. I'm hesitating because I feel like that no matter what I do, it's not going to be good enough. I know it's not going to be good enough because it's the Word of God. And this journey is too big to even wrap my mind around, but we've got to start somewhere. So let's just jump in. And again, your feedback is so critical to this journey. And you can email me at newsif@yahoo.com. So let's do this. Let's start with where we need to start. Let's hear Genesis chapter 1 read. All right. Listen carefully. Pay close attention. Genesis chapter 1.
The first book of Moses, called Genesis, chapter 1. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. And God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day.
There is Genesis chapter 1. There is Genesis chapter 1. Now, we need to read it probably 5 more times, 6 more times, 5 times minimum. So if you haven't, I know here's the danger, especially for those who are long-term Bible students. I know I know Genesis. I know you think you know Genesis, and I think I know Genesis, but you still need to read it 5 times, all right? And I want to play it 5 times. I'm not going to do it right now. There may be times I do that, and I may play and I'm going to play it one more time at the end. When I'm done, I'm going to play it one more time so that you can hear it one more time. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a piece of paper, and I want you to draw one, kind of large circle, one large circle, and then either next to it on the page or below it, write another circle, right? 2 circles. In the first circle, in the center of that circle, write the word God. God, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God. Write God down in that circle. In the other circle, leave it empty. Leave it empty. Just leave it empty. All right? And so you got one circle, God, another circle, just leave it empty, just nothing there. And then go ahead and draw a third circle. Draw a third circle, right? Yeah, well, okay. Well, we'll change that second circle in a minute. So the first circle, just write God. Second circle, just leave it empty for now. Third circle, put man in the center. Man in the center. Right? And when I say man, you can say mankind, humans. You can write male and female, however you want to work it. I'm not using the term male to only refer to men. I am using it just to refer to. I'm using it to refer to mankind. So you can put mankind. You can put human beings. All right, just put it in the center. All right. Now, the first circle represents a God-centric worldview, that God is the center. God is the center of everything, and I am to perceive everything in light of God. I am to view the world from a God-centric viewpoint, right? God is the center. God is the beginning. God is the creator. He is the center, right? That's a God-centric worldview. The second circle, there's nothing there, right? There's nothing there because this view would argue in the beginning there isn't a God. So in the beginning, what? So what we'll put there, just put matter / material. Matter / material. This is a worldview that is materialistic. In the beginning was matter. What is, all that life is about is what you can touch, what you can see, what you can test, what you can hear. It's a materialistic viewpoint, a materialistic view of life. It's a materialistic view of the world. There is nothing that transcends what we see. There is nothing beyond what we see. So it doesn't matter from morality, everything. It comes from, just material. Everything is a materialistic view of life. All right. The third circle has mankind, humans. This is a man-centered view of life, a humanistic view of life, where man is central. So you have a God-centric view, a materialistic view, and a man-centered view. Now, the materialistic and man-centered view, the reason at first I was just going to have two circles is because sometimes the humanistic and materialistic kind of come together. But I want you to see it on a paper. I want you to see it on paper. I want you to see it on a piece of paper. I've got one right here, and I want you to have those three circles and make them kind of large. All right? I want you to see that. Everything in the world, it doesn't matter from education to going to a counselor, going to a psychologist, doesn't matter if you talk to someone about what you should do in life, movies, music, everything. Everything basically operates and comes at you from one of those three perspectives: a God-centric perspective, a God worldview. God is the center. That's how they see everything. Or they come at you from a materialistic worldview. This is all that's here. All that here came from matter. It's materialistic. There's nothing that really transcends that, and no person really ever stays truly materialistic, right? Because if you're truly materialistic, just think about it. Even people who reject a God-centric worldview, they never really stay consistent with a materialistic worldview because here's what they'll do. Hey, we're all just matter. Right? We're all just matter. Okay. So love is really just a chemical reaction within a body. It's just chemicals reacting in the brain. There's not this idea of love that transcends anything. It's just chemical reactions in the brain. Well, nobody really acts like that. The millions of songs and poetry and movies that try to capture the essence of love, the feeling of love. Now, they may define love from a humanistic viewpoint. It may be a humanistic kind of love, but they're still trying to articulate that something transcends just the material. It's not just a chemical reaction that doesn't really mean anything. It's not just a chemical reaction that is simply there to drive people in order to procreate, so to continue the species or expand the species. No one ever looks at it from a purely materialistic perspective. They may do so in a classroom setting, but then immediately when they fall in love, they start speaking of it. It transcends. So, but it may be a humanistic form of love. But I just want you to say the materialistic idea. They'll say, well, it's wrong to enslave a person. Well, why is it wrong to enslave a person? Why? Why is it wrong? Well, because it's just wrong. Because people have dignity. They'll talk about the dignity of a human being. Well, what gives it dignity if we're all just, if in the beginning was matter blew up and we're all just here, we're all a product of time and chance and we're just chemicals and we're just, there's nothing transcendent, then what gives us dignity? That we evolved higher? Like sometimes we speak like people who are materialistic, they speak as if there's something else going on. They want to talk about dignity. They want to talk about morality. They want to talk about right. They want to talk about wrong. They want to talk about justice. They want to talk about equality. And they want to talk about all of these issues that just mere matter doesn't give you. They're talking about concepts that transcend just mere matter. Now, here's what they do. So they accept a materialistic view of the world, but then they come along with a humanistic idea, and where humans then arbitrarily assign purpose, meaning, and things to it just from a humanistic perspective. But then who gets to define if something is right or something is just? Is it simply one individual, or is it the majority, or is it the minority? We could get into all of that, and we'll talk about that more there. But I just want you to see these are three views of life: God-centric, an empty view, which is just matter, just material, just what we see, right? Or a humanistic view where the human being is the center. It's all about us. It's us, me. Sometimes it goes from us to me. What I feel, what I think, what I want, what I believe, what I perceive to be right, what I perceive to be wrong, what I perceive to be purpose, what I perceive to be of value. So that's your three options. That's your three options of life. And every person does that. Now, here's the key. There are those who say they're God-centric, who at times they sound like they're humanistic, or they sound like they're materialistic. There are times those that are materialistic sound like they're humanistic, or there's times that they're materialistic and humanistic who then all of a sudden sound like they're God-centric, or they believe in something transcendent beyond what we can see, touch, and feel, and beyond ourselves. But these are the three competing worldviews, that everything is coming from those perspectives. All right, now, when you turn to Genesis, if you just listen to that chapter, you clearly know where Genesis is coming at you from. In the beginning, God. Genesis chapter 1 is God-centric. God is the beginning. God is the source. God is the focus. And this is critical because we don't at any point as we move through the Bible want to make it man-centric. We have to keep it God-centric. God must be the focus. God must be the subject. We must constantly be learning about God. It is God's word, God's law, God's morality, God's perspective, God's understanding. And we as humans, then we approach a book that is God-centric, and we do so, acknowledging He is above and beyond us, if there is a God, and especially the God outlined in Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created everything. He is creator. So immediately we come at, we are to humble ourselves before this, but we are to see God. That the God-centric view must be the view that takes us from Genesis to Revelation. In fact, if you think about it, it begins with God and it ultimately in the book of Revelation ends with God. All right, that's the way the book works. Now, there is the story of human beings is played out in there, but it's human beings in relationship to God. They're living in light of that God. They're living in light of God's word. It's all about God. So it's still God-centric. So here's the key. We're studying Genesis, But we're setting up something that is look, this is not just, and again, I don't want that. I'm trying to do this differently than maybe I learned it in seminary, because sometimes it felt so academic. This is of the greatest practical value of your life. Where is your worldview? Is it God-centric, materialistic, or humanistic? Where is it? Where is it? Now, you're going to say, if it's a Christian, it's God-centric, but are you clearly demonstrating that? Do you truly, the only way to have a God perspective is you have to have the God perspective filling your mind, which ultimately comes through the pages of this book. Taking a journey through the whole thing. That's why we're doing a journey through the Bible, because we've got to correct these other flawed worldviews. The materialistic worldview, the humanistic worldview. Just look at Genesis 1:1. It's going to go after, it's saying the materialistic worldview is wrong. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. Okay, that goes beyond the material. There's God. That goes beyond. It wasn't in the beginning man. No, in the beginning, God. So man is not the center. Material is not the center. The focal is in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. If you take the God-centric view and take it through the entire Bible, you're going to be going in the right direction. But so much of preaching and teaching in Christianity today has become humanistic. It's become man-centered, man-focused. We make ourselves the star of the story. We make ourselves the small God in the land of the Bible, and we're like, we see ourselves in every page. And I think that we've got to correct that. So I want you to just start right there. Now, as an exercise to kind of get you thinking this way, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go through Genesis. Genesis 1, just Genesis chapter 1. And all I want you to do is go through Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, all the way to the last verse, right? All the way to the last verse. Genesis chapter 1. Start in verse 1. Go to verse 31. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to write down what God did in Genesis chapter 1. You can group verses together, but group them together. God did this. Here's the verses that show him doing this. God did this. Only the actions of God, because God is he is the one doing everything in Genesis chapter 1. It's all about God. Right? Now, I have written down, how many did I write down? When I was listening to that, I realized I missed one. I have written down, let's see, number 1, God. Number 2, God. Number 3, number 4. Okay, I have at least 4 down. And now I'm thinking I should have at least had 5. So I think a 5 should definitely show up. 1 we may have to work on one of them. We'll make it easy. I'll give you the first one. The obvious one is simple. God creates look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. I mean, it's right there. You don't, it's not hard. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. God creates. He creates. All right? Write that down. God creates. That's right there. He's the one who created. He's the one who creates. Now, we could talk about what that means, but right now, look, we're not even trying to interpret anything. Listen to me. What happens with Genesis chapter 1, listen, this is so crazy. It's so twisted if you think about how it happens. Really, in Genesis 1, we are establishing a God-centric worldview, right? God-centric worldview. That's what's being established here. If you miss that, you've missed the point. But this is so twisted the way it happens. Genesis 1, God creates the heaven and earth. And then the rest of the chapter, God. I'm trying to be very careful not to say what he does, because I want you to find them for yourself. Find them, right? And again, you can group them together. If God does something in the chapter and it says that he does it 5, 6, 7 times, then say he does it and then list all the verses where he does that, okay? But here's what's kind of twisted if you think about it. Here's a chapter that screams at you and me, God is the center. And then we've taken that chapter and we've made it all about us and fighting and arguing about the chapter. It becomes more about human argumentation. And we all know what happens. Genesis 1. Well, how did God create? Did God create, by speaking everything to existence in 6 literal 24-hour days? Or wait, did God use evolution to create? Wait, is this an actual description of how God created, or is it symbolic? How long is a day? And we turn it into all of these arguments where we start arguing amongst ourselves. Here's a chapter that says God is the center, and we've said, no, God, get out of the way. We're the center. Now, here's the way you should, and we argue about our interpretations. This becomes Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2 becomes 2 chapters that is God-centric, and we've pushed God out of the conversation and we've made it about us. Now, I know what people will say, no, I'm not making it about me. I'm trying to make it about what God did. I understand that's what you're trying to do, but just think about it. We just lose sight of God and we end up in our arguments and our fights. We end up about our intellect, our understanding, it becomes about us. And if that's what happens, if you get into Genesis and all you want to do is argue about how God created and when he created, you're missing the point. The point of Genesis 1 is God is the center. He is the beginning. Look, Genesis 1, think of it this way. Genesis 1, God is the Alpha. Book of Revelation, he is the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. The Bible begins with God and it ends with God. It's about God. Now, if you can sit there and argue all day about how he did it and when he did it, and you can make that argument, and I'm not saying we should ever not engage in that argument, but what both groups should do is, wait a minute, God is the center. This is about him. Do I have a God-centered life? Is my life centered around God? Is God is the center of my life? Do I have a God-centric worldview where I view everything from the perspective of God? If you miss that, then I'm telling you, I don't care if you can pass the test arguing about creation. I could care less. You failed. You failed yourself. I could care less that you can outline Genesis chapter 1 perfectly. Now, you should outline Genesis. You should. The point is, we can get so caught up in what we're doing to the text, our interpreting the text, our arguing about the text, that we literally miss the subject of the text. This is about God. Don't forget that. So go through Genesis 1 and just, again, what did God created? You see that in Genesis 1:1. God created. So if I was to write down, God created. God created. That is absolutely essential. He created. Then write down the other things he did. Because this is going to give you some idea about this God, right? Because when you open up Genesis, your first thing you encounter as soon as you enter into the land of the Old Testament, the first thing you encounter when you enter into the region, of Genesis is, in the beginning, God. You're confronted with God. And Genesis begins to tells you something about this God. He creates. Right? Now, so we could say what we learn about God, but I want to focus on the actions of God in the chapter. Because it's a God-centric chapter, and the way we see that it's God-centric is it captures the actions of God. I almost want to give them to you, but I do not. All right? Does that make sense? All right, and again, I have, oh man, there's so much. Oh, yeah, I'll stop right there. I want to just start giving them to you, but I want you to. I want to make this about you. I want to. Wait, take that back. I want to make this about your study, but the chapter I want to make it about God. Hopefully, you understood what I was saying there. I want. In other words, I want you involved. I don't want you to just passively listen to me lay it out for you, and you go, "Oh, that's good." I want you to discover it for yourself. All right, but again, it's about us and the fact that we are studying it, but it's about God because that's where the book begins. Hopefully you understood. I wasn't trying to contradict myself there. All right, I'm going to stop. I know, see, I told you this is going to be an interesting, we're not going to do this normally. We're not going to do this normally. See, the normal way would be, okay, the first section is creation, and then I guarantee you almost instantaneously, in every Bible college I've ever been in, you get into a discussion about creation. You get into, that's where it starts. Like, we're missing the whole point of the book. You're missing the whole point. I'm telling you, that's missing the whole point. All right, so I'm going to play the chapter again. All right, I'll play the chapter again. Then I have to play the little copyright announcement about us playing that. And then I'm not going to come back on. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to just, if you need to hit pause, remove all distraction. All distraction. Now, if you'll just take a notebook and listen to what I'm about to play for you, and just whenever it says God does something, just write down what God did and write down you may not get the verse reference, so you may have to have a Bible open, look at the verse reference, and then group them all together and then see how many different specific things that the Genesis 1 says God did. Right? Keep that in mind. All right? So here you go. Are you ready? Here we go. Here's Genesis 1. Then I'll conclude with the copyright statement, and then that will end this session as we begin our journey in Genesis chapter 1. Here we go.
The first book of Moses, called Genesis, chapter 1. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day.
Thank you for listening to this recording of the King James Bible produced by Audio Scriptures International. Audio Scriptures International believes it is more important to spread the Word of God than to make a large profit. Please feel free to make copies of these recordings and distribute them freely so long as you adhere to the following guidelines. First, you may not charge any more than the cost to duplicate and send them. Secondly, you must make a complete copy of the recording, including this message. For commercial and fundraising distribution, please contact Audio Scriptures International for additional information.